Hey guys, and welcome back to another week in DearPiggy's basic algorithm in Java tutorials. So in this week, we have a brand new topic to focus on, and I think this might be one of the most helpful videos that we've done in a while. So this topic is something I'm really excited for. Actually, I think that's a lie, because every single time I start a new week, I always feel like that topic is the best thing that's ever happened. So maybe the best thing that'll ever happen is next week or the week after. I don't know yet. But this week, we're going to be talking about two-pointers. So like always, this first video is going to be all explanation, no coding. Giving you real life examples of two-pointers and explaining to you what the code concept is and kind of walking you through a very basic, I guess, thought process of how maybe we can write the code. And then in the next video, we'll go ahead and code together a real two-pointer function. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So let's go ahead and tell our stories. I know you guys only watch this video for the story, and I don't blame you. So our cookie business is booming. It's doing excellent. And instead of, I guess, freshly baking cookies every day now, I have to get up super early at like 4 in the morning and bake thousands of cookies every day. Now, don't worry, I do have friends to help me out, so it's not just me, and we bake batches. Now, we don't always know how many cookies we're making in our batches. It could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 12, it could be 17, but we bake, I guess, like 500 of these batches of all sorts of different random numbers. But in the end, we'll end up with thousands of cookies, right? And so every time we bake a batch, we save the number. So how many cookies did we make in this batch? We save the number to an array, probably not an array, but like for the sake of code, we're going to think of it as saving it to an array. And so later when our customers come, we'll be able to help them out. Okay, so one of my customers walk in, and it's been the first time since this has ever happened since we started our batches program, and they asked for a number of cookies that we did not bake in a batch, which is really surprising, right? Because that hasn't happened in the week that we've started this. So then we start to panic. We're like, oh no, what do I do? All of my cookies I've baked in these numbers, but we don't have an available set of 33 cookies to give to Mrs. Smith. So how can I easily find the two batches that I'm going to combine together to give Mrs. Smith her target cookie amount? So that is my story, right? I obviously don't need to go look toward the further end of the array where I have hundreds of cookies in a batch. I'll look towards the near end of the array, but I need to put two numbers together that add up to 33, right? And so the whole point of this is now I need to try to find as soon as possible two numbers that will add up to 33. Now later, this number will probably go from 33 to something really big, right? So essentially everybody can tell from my real life story that we have lots and lots of numbers saved together, different or the same, it doesn't matter. And we're going to try and search for pairs, right? So now let's talk about the concept. So like the actual code concept of two-pointers. So the whole point of two-pointers is that you can very easily and effectively search for pairs. So specific pairs that you go in and you can get very easily. And so one common way that we could do this, and you know, I might squeeze this into this video, I might push it to the next. We'll see what the time is at. Currently, okay, it's 5:19. We'll see how long I talk for, and then we'll decide. So we could run this in two for loops, right? We could have something called nested for loops, where I say for int I is equal to 0. I is less than the length of my array, I plus plus. Now that would be like looping through our batch of cookies once. But since I'm looking for two batches of cookies, I would then have to put another for loop inside of that for loop and then run the same thing again, this time starting from a different number to do two batches of cookies, right? And so nested for loops, while they might work for 10 numbers, 20 numbers, 100 numbers, maybe even 1,000 numbers, maybe not 1,000 numbers, it's going to take a while, right? Because when Sunny starts baking 1,000,000 cookies in the morning, nested for loops means you're multiplying. So that means you'd have to run your code in those two for loops 1,000,000 squared times. And so your code will crash. So this is where 2 pointers come in. Instead of using nested for loops, we're going to use everything linear. There will be nothing nested, and everything will run once down and over. Nothing will have to run a million times in one loop and then run a million times in another loop. So that is the concept of 2 pointers. From the name, we can hear that 2 pointers sound like we will have 2 points, and that is exactly what it is. Instead of starting one after another, we'll have 2 points, one at the beginning of your array and one at the end of the array. And based on your target value and what these values add up to, it's going to either move in and out, or one of them is going to move, the other one's going to stay, or these two are both going to move. Either way. And so let's take a look at this picture here. This is kind of where we're starting to explain what we're going to be writing in our code in the next video. So let's say we have a number, and this picture I found online, so maybe not the best example. We have pointer 1, pointer 2, and this is your array of numbers. Now their target number is 6. You can probably tell from what we have here that you're not going to get 6 ever, because pointer 2 is all, oh, never mind. Let's change that. You're not ever going to get you're not ever going to reach your target sum of 6 if your pointer 2 always stays at 6, right? So that means that we're going to start our thought process. So both pointers start at the end. We add them together. We find that our target value is 7. Now, is 7 bigger or smaller than our target sum? 7 is bigger, right? And so now we're faced with which pointer should we move? Now, this is where I guess your array sorting comes in handy. Notice how your array is sorted from least to greatest here. This is actually really important, because when we have it sorted least to greatest and we get that the target sum 6 was less than the 7 that we got, we realized our number had to be smaller. How do we make our number smaller? Well, since our array is sorted, if we take the pointer that's at the beginning and move it up to 2, that would make our sum even bigger, right? But if we took our pointer that's at the end of the sorted array, where the bigger number are, and we moved it down to 4, it would make it smaller, right? So we moved, since 7 was too big, we moved pointer 2 down 1 to 4. So now we're at 4 over here. 1 plus 4 is 5. Now 5 we see is less than 6. And less than 6 now poses a new thought, like we just moved the second pointer and now it's too small. So since it's too small, we want to make the smaller side bigger, right? The left side where the smaller numbers are, specifically pointer 1, we want to make that one a little bit bigger. So then we'll take pointer 1 and move it up to 2. And so now pointer 2 is at 4 and pointer 1 is at 2. 2 plus 4 is the target sum, and we found our pair that we want to get. So does everybody kind of understand that, how 2 pointers are going to start from each end, and depending on the values that we get, they're going to move, the left-hand side is going to move or the right-hand side is going to move, and the numbers will get bigger or smaller as we go. This, you can probably see, is going to be important in our real life example that I just talked about over here, right? Because when I'm looking for batches, well, I could use this idea to run through my array of all the batches that I've made this morning. I want to start from the 2 very ends. And then we'll keep on testing until we found the right number of cookies total. So you can probably see how 2 pointers are going to be really awesome. Now, I've talked for a while now. I think that's a good end to this video. Next video, we're first going to code up an example of what not to do, because I personally feel like it is easier to understand because more people tend to do this. And I'll explain why it doesn't work, and then we'll do a code example of our actual 2-pointer function. So I hope you guys enjoy the story time, and I hope you guys have a better understanding of what 2 pointers are, and I will see you guys next video. Bye, guys.